Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the JustNabz podcast with me, Nabil, and
Nabila.
welcome back. How was your week, Nabila?
I would be lying if I said that it was a great week. It has been a rough week for me. It has. Um, Emotional week.
How come? Oh,
Look here. Look. It's been a long year and it's finally catching up to me. Um I realize, the year's over and next year is like right on our doorstep, and new year, new me, goals time, and I absolutely have not thought about what I want to do. I have nothing to show for 2020 except this podcast. So it got me thinking about how there's so much pressure on us to achieve stuff in your 20s, and by the time you're a certain age you need to you have to have accomplished things, and where's the time to heal, like to just rest, to just get yourself back in check.
no.
I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Absolutely. Our 20s are supposed to be our funniest time, our funniest decade in our whole lives. Because from the 30s on, it's all about having a family, a steady job, and life gets serious. I think that 20s are meant to be that transition from the old life with no responsibilities to a more responsibility plenty life. Yet the 20s are still a decade, so responsibilities might hit early on someone's and might hit even after the 30s on someone else. But it is true that we still have that constant pressure. I reckon it's given by society, but that constant pressure of needing to show that you're not what we can refer to as maybe a couch potato, that just you're doing something with your life. That is a given pressure.
Yeah, I think social media adds to that, where you're watching people live their lives and buying their first cars and houses, and you're still stuck in a job which was supposed to be for 1 or 2 years. Next thing you know, it's 5 years and you're still in this job, and you start feeling frustrated, and you're putting pressure on yourself. You're putting yourself into debt because you want to keep up with people. So that's where I am right now. I need to bring myself towards myself and think about what I want to do next year.
Yeah, I think that social media gives the pressure, but social media, I mean, if you take Instagram for instance, Instagram is made to show off the positive side of your life. So if out of 24 hours, 23.59 hours are complete crap, and just 1 minute of your day seems perfect, you're going to post something regarding that single minute. So if you add everything up, it means that Instagram is basically a social network made for positivity only. It would seem like that, but if you put things into perspective, you can see that it's all fake. And it is true that it adds up to that pressure, but we have to realize that social media is completely fake.
I cleansed out my social media. Honestly, anything that's made me upset or has had put negative thoughts in my head, I have removed it, blocked, deleted, muted. So I only get positive affirmations every day, which is quite nice when you open the app. And people who I want to see.
I feel honoured because I don't think you've cancelled me, so
No, not yet.
fair enough.
You're still on my feed.
Yeah, but marvelous. I mean, it won't be any longer yet. Yeah, I'm honoured. I mean, since yesterday. I mean, it seems fresh, but since yesterday, I've given up on social media basically. So I've completely deleted both Twitter and Instagram, which were the only two social networks I was still using. So yeah, I mean my personal accounts. So yeah,
But you're still running. I hope you're still running our podcast page.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I completely forgot about that. But yeah,
I have to do everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I promised I wouldn't swear, but you're tempting me. But yeah. Anyway, you actually introduced a very important topic, and here with us today we have I think the best person who we can talk to regarding this. May I present to you then Richie Driss, BBC presenter, marvelous guy who would seem like that. Hello, Richie.
Hey, I was gonna say how are we, but I was privy to the conversations that you just had, and I had loads of very, very sort of interesting thoughts on it. I'm in my 30s. I did the whole obviously I did the whole 20s thing because I'm in my 30s. So I completed that, and I think that it was very interesting to listen to the conversation that you two just had with regards to the societal pressures that are put on people when they get to certain ages and all that kind of thing. I didn't have a paid job in what I do now in this industry until I was 27. And I tell everyone that because, if it's anything with you guys like it is with me, then you hear all about, oh, by the time you're 30, you should be married with two kids and a career. And it's like, nah, that's bullshit. Stop it. Like, everyone is running their own race. The only person that you should compare yourself to is yourself a few years beforehand. So now because thankfully I've gone up a level and I am in a far, far better place than I was. Now, although I do feel pressures a lot more than I used to, that's only because I'm in a job that I actually care about. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the pressures from work are bigger than they were before, but that's because I care about the job more than handing out free samples of coffee or trying to get people to sign up to a gym that they didn't want to sign up to, and all that kind of thing. So, and also, everyone should be as kind as humanly possible to themselves and pat themselves on the back that they just completed 2020.
Yes.
Because my God, what a absolute nonsense of a year it's been for everyone, for every single person on the planet. So just to complete it and have your health is just the best thing that could have come out of this year. So you don't need to show anything other than that you are here. I think the only way that 2021 can be any worse than 2020 is if the actual apocalypse occurred and fire started raining down from the heavens and there were horses. The 4 horses of the apocalypse started galloping across.
We thought a lot of the things that happened this year were impossible. But it happened. So,
yeah.
I'm not tempting fate. I am not tempting the universe. Let's not. But yeah, and the worst is people putting pressure on you to get married. I'm pushing 30. I'm borderline 30 now. So you know what that means in a brown society.
Of course, I think it depends as well on not only where you're from, but where you're from, how you were raised, your culture, but also how much you let that have an effect on you. Thankfully, neither of my folks put. My mum says to me, "Oh, I want to be a grandma." I'm like, okay, well, you've got a few years to wait. Yeah, that's for sure. But they don't put. I'm lucky in that they don't put pressure on me.
The best they're going to get is a dog or a cat.
Right. I am far,
Yeah,
far more likely to have a dog or a cat than an actual human child.
I actually got a cat that showed up at my door during lockdown, and that's our baby now. Hmm.
That's wonderful. There
wow.
you go. That's a good sign.
I
Yeah.
That's a
know.
2020 blessing.
So Richie, as you said, now you said you are in a better place than you used to be some years ago. May I ask you, what was your path leading to your 30s and to the better place you're there now?
With regards to my career, what I've come to realise is that there's no one way that people can get over here in the UK. There's no one way that people can get into the broadcast industry. Um, like I work with three other presenters, and all four of us have completely different paths that got us into the job. Mine was, I don't want to like sort of dress up in struggle swagger
No,
and try
absolutely,
and
yeah.
preach that, oh, my life was so difficult, blah 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 blah,
Mm.
because it's not like that at all, you know. However, it easily took me the longest path to get in to this broadcast industry position that I'm in now compared to the others. So I come out of university not knowing what I wanted to do at all at the age of 21. Went to work in a bar to try and save some money to then go travelling. Instead, I spent all of that money on going on nights out and trying to live how I did at university, even though I wasn't at university anymore, and I just basically didn't grow up. Did that job, I did another job in a clothes shop, and then when I was 24, so a whole 3 years later after graduating, I thought, okay, I need to sort my life out, and I actually need to get into some sort of career path. So I went to my local radio station, really blagged my way in there. I'll give you the abridged version, otherwise we'll be here for hours. And then this local radio station, one thing led to another, and then I was on community radio, which over here is basically you don't get paid
Mm.
No.
to do this, and I did this at a radio station that was a 2.5 hour commute from where I lived. So I did it 3 times a week. It was a 5 hour journey to and from, and it cost me £90, 90 English pounds every week to do this job. And then on the side, I'd
Wow.
work in bars, I'd hand out free samples, and that hit a bit of a lull. So I just decided to add more strings to my bow and learn to produce video content as well. So I come up with an idea, partnered up with someone that I met at an event very, very randomly who was on the same sort of path as me. We created this whole video series for a website over here that's quite big called Grime Daily. And then I took that with me to a website called joe.co.uk and said, look, I'm not just a presenter, I'm a producer as well. I've done this content. The content, all of which I had to pay for. You know, I had to pay for the location, I had to pay for video cameras and producers and not
Mm-hmm.
producers, I was the producer, the editors, the cars for the talent to come along and get involved, all that kind of thing. Pay for it all myself, and then that landed me a job at joe.co.uk. And then from there, I did
From there,
loads of,
that's where I first saw your content.
yeah.
I came across one of your videos where you drove a Formula E car. I was like, wow, this guy, this is my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
was crazy.
I mean, I
It was
think I started following your journey from there, and you've done some mad things, like proper mad, like insanely wonderful, scary things as well. So I've enjoyed watching your journey and watching you grow in your journey. Just the little last bit. But it's been fun. I live vicariously through your posts.
it's very interesting to speak to people that you know that aren't my mates from school that have known me for years and years and years, that have, like yourself, you know, come into my journey from getting into that paid position, and it helps me remember sort of where I came from, and it also helps keep me grounded as well, which is good. Um, and Joe.co.uk was one thing it was incredible for was opportunity. You know, I got to interview some truly unbelievable people that never in my life I had any right to interview. I didn't have any right to interview them or sit in a room with them or even meet them, full stop. And I got to, which was unbelievable. And then from there, I put a show reel together, and the BBC
I
came
mean,
knocking.
you even fed an egg to Danny DeVito. That is
Well,
what
actually,
is life.
he fed an egg to me, actually, which
Oh.
I'd rather be fed by Danny DeVito than feed him, which is the weirdest sentence I've ever said. Yeah, I've done some truly surreal things. But as I said, the higher I go up in my industry, the more I care about the work and the job and the output that I create and the perception of myself as well. Because let's be honest, you know, the broadcast industry and social media unfortunately go hand in hand. And it's very much about the perception of you from your social media as much as it actually is you doing the job. And I don't care about social media. I really don't. If it wasn't for the fact that I pretty much had to keep it, I would delete it.
The thing with your social media though is it's very real. You don't put on fronts, I think, which is kind of why I wanted to interview you. I was like, this is one real person, but let's find out who you are behind that social media page. Like, what is your story? What was your journey? Which, yeah, that's
How much time have you got?
for you all. I have all day.
I genuinely, I mean, pretty. I did the path that I did straight out of university. When I mentioned earlier on that I had no right to be able to sit in a room with Denzel Washington and chat to him, I mean, I don't come from a family that has any connections. I was never given a silver spoon.
Which is what I love. I love your story. Like, I just love it. Like, every time you interview these people, I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting.
Yeah,
But
it's definitely a cliche to say, oh, I'm an example of what you can do if you set your mind to it and blah, 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 blah. It's a cliche, but it's true. And as corny as it sounds, I'd like to think of myself as an example. And if there's anything that I want to be able to do, it's to be able to leave that sort of legacy of being able to do whatever the hell it is you want to do, as long as you believe in yourself. Especially now, when I first started, social media wasn't anywhere near as big as it is now. Now people can create their own podcasts, can launch their own YouTube channel. And while I would say that YouTube is very, very different to what I do now in terms of presenting live television, I would also say that at least it gives you a platform to begin with.
Yes. So ever since I was a kid, like, all I wanted was my own radio show. That was my thing. Like, when we were kids, we'd like pretend we were radio hosts and call each other, and we'd be, do the whole radio shebang. And I kind of just grew up, and your dreams become more realistic, and carried on, studied, and somehow I ended up in radio. With not presenting, not with my own show, but behind the scenes. And people are like, oh my God, this is so cool. But also we see the part of media and broadcasting that the world don't really see. So yes, I kind of achieved that dream of wanting to be in radio, but it didn't quite hit the spot. Like, it didn't it wasn't cut out to what I wanted it to be. So I was like, you know what, let's try this podcasting thing. Now
when you said to me your genes adapted and your dreams became quote unquote more realistic, according to who? Realistic according
society.
to who?
Honestly, I fell into the trap of I fell into that fear trap where people told me, it's not easy, it's not this, it's not, you can't do that. And being a female, Indian female, it's like there's a lot of, it's complicated. It's like there's always things that people already group you into things before you even show the world who you are, basically. I mean, I did break out the mold. I moved across the country, got an internship in radio, and then moved my way up from there, which is not an ordinary journey for someone in my box.
Quote unquote,
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
box.
yeah.
Yeah, but as I said, those boxes aren't put on. They're boxes that you shouldn't allow yourself. It's easier said than done, but you shouldn't allow yourself to be put into. And also, the things that make you different, especially in the broadcast industry, because we all know the broadcast industry is silver spoon, white, 70% male. But that's what makes you different, and that's what made me different, and that's something that I carried with me as, I can bring something to the table that you don't already have. I can bring a variety
for me,
to it.
I think it was just it was a whole self-confidence issue. It was just I just never I'd never had the courage to take that leap, that final putting myself out there, which is something I'm working on now. But it's like, if I could go back a few years, that's definitely something I'd do. I'd be more confident to take that jump, that leap of faith.
One thing that I didn't do as well, because I understand that 100%, and as I said, I was 24 when I even started the journey, and I work. One of the presenters that I work with now is 20. He's just turned 21. But one of the things that I did on my journey was I never, ever, ever got myself a 9 to 5. Money was not my priority in any way. I did bar work, so shifts. I did work that was like, one-off jobs of handing out free samples of, coffee and making people sign up to the gym. Once you complete that job, you then need to find another job. So instead of getting, and I knew this at the time, I remember thinking, I'm not going to get myself, as much as my dad pressured me and as much as my dad said, no, money's so important. Yeah, it is. But it was a lot more not wanting to get comfortable in a 9 to 5. And that was a really big deal for me to sort of divulge away from that path. When all of my mates were in their 9 to 5s, all of them getting money, I was the polar opposite. But it thankfully worked out.
So what you reckon helped you was those which we might refer to as soft skills. You said that you started producing some videos yourself without any prior substantial experience. So it is, because nowadays, of course, everyone talks about soft skills, how important they are, but they talk about them maybe in a, at least I feel like it's like this, more in a Silicon Valley way, in which they say, oh, you need to learn how to code, for instance, how to use a computer with, with Excel or with some fancy program, while soft skills are actually much more variegated, let's say. So you reckon those soft skills are what primarily helped you get into the producing industry?
Yeah, I guess so. The sort of production side of it was me wanting to build my own path. And I think that's very, very important for anyone that wants to get into the broadcast industry. It's very, very important to be able to have a knowledge of how to edit a video, how to edit sounds, how to organize, how to get how to pitch an idea, how to liaise and negotiate with, say, film PRs or with
how to sell
brands.
yourself as well.
Exactly, and how to sell yourself as well. So those are transferable skills that I could, take into, say, the sales industry. I could go into sales with the experience that I've already got. But I just decided to use them and focus them on something that I actually wanted to do.
So we sort of are like the same industry, so we kind of know what it's like in broadcasting and stuff. But Nabil is completely out of the circle. He's looking at us like, what are you even on about? Like, what? He's like, I cannot relate. So what industry are you in?
Wait, because not actually. I think that Richie, now ending his last sentence, he said that one important thing, that every skill he has, or the majority of his skills, he can apply them to any other field. So when we're talking, I'm completely out of it. I'm an engineering student, and I have a magazine, and um, of course, I've thrown myself into this podcast. But every single experience gives you some set of skills, which you can then use however you want. So, for instance, some skills you use for, like for your PR. How was it? We should say how to relate yourself to PRs, how to interact with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything you learn there, you can literally apply it to a company selling bottles of water. So it's more about interacting with humans. So as soon as you realize that your set of skills are not just channeled into a specific field, but you can rather use them anywhere you want, I think that's what can properly unlock your career, your desired career.
I'll give you an example. So in my last job, I'd never dealt with, say, we all know EA Sports, we all know FIFA. Other football games are available. I have to say that as working for the BBC. But anyway, they emailed me saying, a new FIFA game coming out. This is what we're offering you. We're offering you this opportunity. You can speak to this footballer for 3 minutes. That's where I then need to negotiate with them to get the best thing for the company that I work for, the best bit of video content that I work for.
Yep.
But because of those emails that they send me, the wording that they use, believe me, when I say FIFA, that's one of the cooler things I got sent. I got sent also like, here, have a cup of tea out of a spray can. So like, like, in fact, I probably learnt from those more than the good opportunities because they have to work a lot harder to sell me that thing.
Yeah.
But it's from those emails that I see what people write, what appeals to me, and then I can use that. If I watch an advert on TV, I can be like, no, that's a load of crap. Like I don't subscribe to that at all. I don't relate to that at all because I've been on the receiving end of people pitching stuff to me.
It has to align with your brand. So, which is what I basically studied is brand building, like who to align your brand with, what kind of people you associate the brand with. It's a lot of thinking, a lot of strategy behind it.
Yeah, that sounds very, very interesting. Yeah.
I saw you. Didn't you once do something with Lewis Hamilton? I had to bring that up because I always have to bring Lewis Hamilton up in every conversation.
I did, yeah. I had 10 minutes with Lewis Hamilton to talk about Puma. So that's an example of something that I had to negotiate. So email came in, here you go, have an opportunity with Lewis Hamilton.
Did Puma contact you, or was it like Lewis brand or something? Or was Puma offering? Yeah, okay.
So this came about because I had got emails from this agency previously, this agency that represented Puma. I'd gotten, had conversations with them previously, got on very, very well with them, go for drinks and all that kind of thing, and networked and just got on well with them. So they said, oh, okay, here you go, have this opportunity with Lewis Hamilton. All you have to do in exchange is wear Puma and have Puma in the background.
It's not even difficult. I love the Puma brand. I wear that. I wear it for free. I pay them to wear their brand.
Right. But that was easy at my last job. In my job now at the BBC, it would not be easy at all. And in fact, to the point where we wouldn't be offered, it wouldn't be a thing. It probably wouldn't be a thing. You'd have to negotiate a lot harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was 10 minutes with him. And that was one of those instances where I had to really roll with the punches because my camera operator rolled up very, very hungover / still drunk, and he'd
Oof.
forgotten like the second microphone. He'd forgotten a piece of equipment that we needed to be able to make this content work. So at that point, I had to say, right, okay. Literally about 15 minutes before having this chat with him, I was like, okay, well, we're gonna have to completely change the idea, completely scrap what the idea was, and do this instead.
Was he a nice guy?
Yeah, he was lovely. I spoke to him for 10, 11 minutes, and he seemed very sound.
Just so, I think that many people thinking about, or interviewing Lewis Hamilton, for instance, they'd feel that you might have you might feel a bit anxious going into it, and I think this is something that it's recurrent. Every single time we know that we are going to deal with someone who we think is more important than us, which might be just the boss or the I don't know, the CEO of the company you would like to go and work for, and maybe you get offered, for instance, an interview with that boss, and you feel a bit anxious because he's important, I'm no one. What am I going to do?
Sorry. Can you hear that? Can you hear that in the background?
No,
Alexa, shut up. Done. Sorry about that. I really didn't want to interrupt you.
No worries, but the
Isn't
question
that
is
scary
quite
when you're living alone and then you just suddenly hear a voice?
It's makes me feel better.
Comfort.
Yeah.
So the question I reckon is pretty simple. How do you interact with that important person without showing off that sense that you are higher than me? I am struggling to know how to deal with you.
It's a very, very good question. Practice and mindset are the two biggest things. And the thing I remember, I tend not to get nervous before interviewing these people. Like Lewis Hamilton, I wasn't nervous. I think I've been very nervous, the 2 times I've been the most nervous that I can think of was Peter Schmeichel, because he's the reason I support Man United, the reason I'm a goalkeeper.
I'm a goalkeeper too.
Nice, love that. And also, he was very, very early on when I got the job at joe.co.uk. Within like 6 weeks, it was like, oh, here you go, you're going to do some content with him. And I was like, okay. So mindset, practice, and also knowing that you're there to do a job as well. That's, for me, was the main thing. I've watched press junkets and interviews with people that are far more focused on the fact that they are in a room with Denzel Washington than actually doing a good job. And don't get me wrong, when I was sat there opposite him, I do remember while he was talking thinking, I swore in my head, but I'm not going to swear now. I remember thinking, oh my days, I'm actually sat in a room chatting to someone who's every single one of his films I loved and watched growing up and all that kind of thing. There was that moment. But then it's, okay, look, at the end of the day, you're there to do a job.
Yeah.
And the only way that you're going to excel in doing that job is by taking yourself, sort of disconnecting yourself a little bit from the situation and treating them as if you would any other person, and not thinking, this is Oscar winner, Denzel Washington, Hollywood icon. Do you know what I mean? And also, at the end of the day, everyone poos. And I remember that's sort of the last thing that I remember thinking to myself before I went into that room was, this guy, he poos like the rest of us.
I absolutely agree.
But it was a good interview. I remember you asked him some good questions. Do you did you craft your own questions when you interviewed these people? Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I within reason. Now in my job, I've got less freedom than I did have before, working for the BBC, and also because I work in sort of children's television now. I will insert my own questions, but potentially run them by the producer as well.
Yeah, and I think that bottom line, it's really important what you said, which is everyone poos. And what I would like to add to it is what's the worst which could happen question. So So in your field, for instance, if you want to interview someone and you're scared of asking them, or if you want to apply for a job, what's the worst that could happen? They could just say no. They're not going to kill you.
That's how
They're
he
not.
prepped me to message you to ask you to be on our
Right.
podcast.
So what? Yeah. I
Because
mean,
I was.
just, so I have this kind of maybe flawed for some. For some, it might be flawed, but it's what's the worst which could happen. So if I could literally email Lewis Hamilton, for instance, he's not even going to reply, but who cares? I'm going to try my chances, and I have nothing to lose. So I think that throwing yourself, we just got one life, yeah. So we're not going, and we don't even know how long it's going to be. It could. I mean, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but it could literally end tomorrow. If you knew that it was going to end tomorrow, you would be on your computer, emailing for what you really want, because I don't have anything to lose. Well, it shouldn't be your mentality for the rest of your life. You shouldn't go and jump from a bridge because what's the worst that could happen? Absolutely not. But sometimes that question, at least personally, it has helped me to achieve something that I wouldn't have achieved if I just restrained myself.
It's about self-awareness, and as I said, it's also about how you approach the situation as well. So, for example, if I was just in town doing my shop and Tom Hardy was there, I wouldn't go up to him, say, and I wouldn't go up to him and ask for a photograph, because I know as soon as I start doing that, everyone else would be like, "Who's this guy? Oh my god, it's Tom Hardy!"
Yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah. So that's self-awareness,
Mm.
And also, they're just people as well.
Mm.
Yeah,
When it comes to having, if someone comes, and this has happened, it sounds weird for me to say now, but people have come up to me and said, "Oh, would you mind if I get a photograph?" I'm like, "Of course you can." I'll never say no, but it always helps, and always helps me give them the time of day if they're courteous. Just basic manners always really, really help, and that applies to absolutely everything. Like, if I'm going to apply it to an everyday situation, you're just about to go into a job interview. And I had to do interviews for the job I'm in now and for my last job, and I never went in there with a shred of nerve, because I'd been rejected so many times before that I thought, I've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. The worst thing that will happen is that I'm in the position that I'm in now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's not as if by doing this job interview, I'm suddenly going to be £1,000 poorer. I'm not. That as well.
Yeah, that's something I'm definitely working on. Yeah, I crumble at the smallest of things. So yeah, you can ask me this question in see where I'm in a year from now.
You should listen to this
we'll
episode
see
on loop for
how
the
far I
next
get.
3 years.
It's
3
also
years.
about finding stuff that inspires you. I owe a lot of my drive to the music that I listen to and to the films that I watch. I think one of the film, I need to meet Will Smith just so that I can say, if it wasn't for you, I would not be here now. Because when I watched The Pursuit of Happiness, I was like, oh my god,
I
this
love
film
that movie.
is
It was so sad.
unbelievable, and it's a true story. So I need to meet Chris Gardner and thank him, and I need to meet Will Smith, and when I do, I will shake his hand and I will say,
You can
if it
put
wasn't
that
for
on
you,
your 2021 vision board.
this is it. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been sat here now. You wouldn't have given me the drive.
I have the exact same feeling, but it's a book for me, and it's the biography of Winston Churchill, a man which I admire quite a lot. But yeah, I can't go and thank him, but I completely agree with the thing that we need to take inspiration from others. Taking inspiration does not mean by any mean idolizing someone, because I'm completely against that. We should not idolize anyone. But taking inspiration means take the good side of everything, of someone you feel more related to, which you can relate to their achievements, and try to push for that vision. Have a vision and push for it, and just push your boundaries. that's why what I think is helping me at the moment in life.
Good tip, for sure.
Yeah, I think also I mentioned with the whole Instagram purge and stuff, I find now with more like positive posts that are coming up, more inspiring posts, it does um drive me more than, just the kind of rubbish that was on my feed before. I definitely was not this person last year. I could never get on a podcast and speak last year this time. I would never do it. So I think I'm coming along.
Here you go. So there you go. So you took the leap to start this podcast, and did you die?
No,
Not
Exactly.
yet.
I just
Exactly.
yeah.
Uh,
But
exactly.
did you die?
No, exactly. But also, for me as well, it's having positive affirmations is great. But if you want levity, if that's the correct word, to these positive affirmations, they need to come from a genuine place. There is so much on social media about, Instagram especially. They'll take a photo of someone and they will put, "It is what it is," and then have a photo of Gandhi. And it's like, what? That's just superfluous crap. Like, for me, if I'm gonna read these affirmations or that kind of thing, I'm very happy to, but I will subscribe to them depending on the person that it comes from.
Yeah, it's exactly.
That if I the amount of Fisher Price philosophy that I see just sort of dulls everything and saturates everything. If Chris Gardner, who Will Smith played in The Pursuit of Happiness, and he has his true story, if he says something, I will listen.
Yes.
If a white rich middle class straight man who's never had to work for anything in his life says work hard and anything is possible, I'll be like,
Thank you.
prove
Thank
it.
you. And I have
Yeah.
exactly one person in mind whose posts I hate seeing, which is why I
Right.
hate going onto LinkedIn as well.
Yeah,
Right.
I have one as well.
Right.
We can say it. I don't think we're ever going to. For me, I don't know if you know him. He's called Gary V.
Yeah,
He's quite
that's
popular
exactly
in the US.
that's exactly who I
Right.
had in mind.
Right.
So I don't know enough of Gary Vee's story to be able to judge. So I don't know personally.
Yeah, but I think that
you do.
Yeah, I don't think that the end result. I don't think that the end result is what he wants. I think that he ends up putting some more pressure on people rather than helping them actually achieve what they want. Because if you like go on Instagram and find all these posts one after the other, and it's all like do more today, maybe wake up earlier, work 24/7. I don't think that's going to help you because you like you channel your life and thinking, if I don't work 24/7, I'm not going to achieve that. And that is not true. You need to make the most out of your time. People have achieved their dreams by working 1 hour a day, and others have failed in doing so, working 24 hours a day. So that's not true.
It's not about working hard, it's about working smart.
Working
and
smart.
if you're up at 4 a.m. and tweeting, "Oh, another day, another grind time." Right, okay, cool, thanks.
He's
if you're up
attacking
from
me personally.
Oh.
That is a person.
Oh. Ooh, awkward. But if you're up at 4 a.m. and you're too busy telling everyone how hard you're working, then that's detracting from the actual work that you're doing. And also, by the end of the day or halfway through the day, you are 100% more tired than you would have been if you got a decent night's sleep, if you looked after yourself mentally and physically.
Yep.
And in the long run, you're not doing yourself any favours.
What's
Yeah,
so we're still on
absolutely.
the topic of social media. What's one misconception that people have of you?
That I care about social media, possibly. That's the only one I can think of because, and this is to my detriment. I think I'm so worried about. How do I explain this? There's I have a real sort of there's a real juxtaposition to me. There's a real contradiction. Paradox. That's the word I'm looking for. My biggest paradox is that I don't care so much about social media that I want that to come across in my social media. And therefore my thought goes into the caption. I overthink the caption, for example, because I just want to come across as just myself and a normal person so much that I end up overthinking it and caring too much about it. So that's my biggest paradox. I will say that anything that you see on my social media, I'd like is 100%. It's not 100% me. It's not possible to be 100% yourself on social media, but I'd like to think it's authentic. And there are people that I work with that cultivate a certain perception of themselves, and they're not like that at all. Fair play, each to their own. But that's just not something that I want to do. I'd want to be hired for work because of me, not my quote-unquote brand. Because I'd like to think they're one and the same. Otherwise, it's disingenuous.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Although, like, I've come across jobs where they ask for your social media, and I'm like, but why? That's my personal page. You're not going to. What are you looking for on that page? Yeah, but I use my Instagram as a photography outlet. I just love taking pictures. There's no selfies. People are like, why don't you post pictures? I'm like, no, this is for my dogs, my cat, and the landscape, sunset, sunrises. That's my thing.
I guess the only understandable reason that a job would want to ask for your social media is if you are the sort of person that will post Nazi propaganda, and they're like, oh, here they are on
associate with you.
But what about anti-capitalist propaganda? That's me. That's why.
That depends. If you're going to apply for Goldman Sachs and you're posting anti-capitalist things, it's not. It's just about being coherent.
It's also about finding the environment that suits your values.
And also you don't have to put everything on social media that you dislike.
Absolutely.
You just don't have to touch it. Obviously, there are things that you need to touch upon to make yourself, a good human. If you're silent in, obviously with everything that happened with George Floyd this year, if you were silent, then you're complicit. And as much as I hate Instagram activism without any actual going out there and doing your bit, as much as I hate that and just doing it for the gram, it's also important that you show that you do care about important issues as well. But that doesn't mean you have to touch on every single
I feel like if you don't know enough about a topic, stay away from it.
And that's fine.
And it's fine. You don't have to have an opinion on everything. You can still care and not know a lot about something and show up as best as you can rather than not at all.
Exactly.
I absolutely agree. And you know what? Just yesterday, it was 2 days ago. So Sebastian Vettel, an F1 driver, he put his helmet for for an auction, and people actually started bidding for it, and he reached like 250,000 euros. And I was just scrolling through the comments, and there was just one guy who said, absolutely hate it, I wouldn't bid 1 euro. I said, wait, okay, you don't like it, you wouldn't bid, and you didn't bid. What's the point of going and saying it? Why do you have to express your opinion? Is there anything in our lives that we can actually just leave it for ourselves? Do we actually have to say everything?
Yeah, I know a few people whose careers have ended because of what they've said on social media and what they've posted on social media. So it's a very dangerous space. As much as it is, insight into who you are, it's also very, very risky.
It can be. It's just about being smart and having that self-awareness. Like if you want to be annoyed then just check out Harry Maguire's last Instagram post about how he, thinks that gay people are allowed to live. Go into the comments of that, and you'll see people like, no, gay people don't deserve life.
I do not
says
visit
in the
comment
Bible
sections
this.
anymore.
It's like,
Replies and comment section, no go for me.
right.
It gets me so worked up.
I feel like I need to be wearing a hazmat suit to go into the comment section.
Yeah. Also, whenever, do you know what else pisses me off, if I can use that word? Our beloved team, Man United.
Yeah.
Every time they lose really badly, I block them off social media. I don't know how that's gonna help, but it just
You know what's you know what's the thing about social media that I don't like? So social media are the concept of social media is like having this platform, like going into a cafe, like going into Starbucks and having people talking to each other. But the difference is, if you go into Starbucks, for instance, and you find this person shouting racial slurs, for instance, and that thing is repeating itself for a year, every single day you go there, there's someone shouting racial slurs, maybe you will stop going to that Starbucks. Whilst on social media, even if we have someone explicitly saying racial slurs every single day on Twitter, for instance, we keep using Twitter. So that's the difference, that we cannot, that's why social media are not made to just say your opinion every single time you hop on them.
Ricky Gervais summed it up best when he said in a stand-up comedy that he did that social media, if people acted like they did on social media, the world would probably just spontaneously combust. Imagine putting a sign up in the street that said, guitar lessons available, call us phone number. If you did that same thing on social media, someone will comment saying, I don't want guitar lessons.
yes.
Imagine someone going up to that poster in the street and saying, but I don't want guitar lessons. It's like,
I remember that bit. Yeah.
Chill.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't like something, just go off. You don't have to say it.
Yeah.
No one cares at the end of the day what you think or what you don't think when you're on social media. But yeah, whatever. I think that with social media, we're never going to come to a positive end. This isn't something that is going to solve itself, and no one is interested in solving it, actually.
But it must be stressed that there are some wonderful, wonderful things about social media.
Yeah, that's true.
It's got to be stressed. As much as I don't care about it and I more time hate it, there are some wonderful, wonderful moments. And there have
I found
been,
both
and
of
there
you
will
on
be.
social media. So there's that.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah, we were talking about the good things, though.
Burn. Real burn.
Excuse me, you found me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, just because you said, oh look, there's someone with the same name as me. I was like, we don't even have the same name.
I mean, it's just silly, but sometimes the silliest things are what bring out the best things. And yeah, there is a positive side to social media, which can be just a single account. I love history, for instance, and there are plenty of history accounts on Twitter which I enjoy following. That is true. And even on the Black Lives Matter thing, I think that social media has helped amplify the whole movement, for instance, with petitions and the whole world attention to a certain issue. Sometimes it doesn't feel fair. So we have some more issues in the Middle East, in China, and it doesn't seem fair sometimes because the same attention we gave rightly to the Black Lives Matter movement is not given to some areas in the world. So it's unfair sometimes. But I think that at the end of the day, the whole balance is positive as far as this is
But
concerned.
I feel like Black Lives Matter has also shone a light on other struggles that people didn't know about as well. So, with what's happening in the Middle East, in China, in India, people are opening their eyes to these issues just because of Black Lives Matter, because
That's true.
a lot of people are like, okay, but what can I do? Like, what more can I do? And then, okay, there's this cause and this is also happening, and it's been an awakening. It's not, it's not perfect, but it's something.
And
although
also,
for me, it's like, how are you only seeing things now? So it's a bit frustrating when you know, like you've grown up knowing about these issues, and people are only realizing it now. I'm like, where have you been all this time? Hello,
At
but
the end of the day, it just depends on how close you are to the situation, and this is a cynical way of looking at it. But there are so many people that don't have any friends that are an ethnic minority, don't have never delved into the culture, don't listen to the music, don't watch the films. Not like they just don't care. It's so far away from their reality that they'll just post their little black square on Instagram and be done with it and think they've done their bit, and that's it. And other than that, it's like, okay, well, it's not my problem. It's not anywhere near my reality. So why should I dedicate time to it? Whereas, there are other people that are at the very least ethnic minorities that have suffered from discrimination themselves, so on some level they'll be able to relate to it. Obviously, maybe not as badly, but they can at least relate to it. Therefore, they can at least be a lot more outspoken about it.
Absolutely. Well, sometimes it's funny. I was talking about this with my brother just earlier on, and we were talking about this MMA fighter whose parents illegally immigrated from Cuba, I reckon, to the United States. And now the fighter himself has grown up and everything, and has become one of the most racist people in America. Because sometimes I think that people look for controversy. There's this need to be controversial sometimes. And even on the Black Lives Matter movement, there's no need to be controversial. It's literally just, let's have the same rights. Why do you need to be controversial and go and say, yes, but this, no, but that, and go and look at one particular thing? I think we need to drop the controversy thing as well.
It's simple. They're contrarians who want the attention and want to build a following. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Clout,
because
clout chasers.
Not being mainstream is the new mainstream at the moment. There's this constant need to get out of the mainstream atmosphere and trying to be the only one standing out.
Which leads me to my question that I wanted to ask you. What is your best tip for making the world a better place?
What is my best tip for making the world a better place?
Yes.
Am I only allowed one?
You're allowed 2, 3, 4. Up to you.
Okay. I've touched on this already, but I think it's an underrated and underappreciated value. Self-awareness. If you don't examine yourself as much as the next person, and you go out there throwing your opinions about without taking a look at yourself in the mirror and thinking to myself, why am I saying this? What's this going to lead to? Then it could just cause all sorts of issues, all sorts of problems. The amount of people on social media that just don't have I'll give you an idea. Like the Kardashians, zero self-awareness at all. During a pandemic, they will Instagram how they've just rented a private island and invited all of their friends. And it's like, we are in the middle of the worst pandemic in history. This is the worst year ever. How can you be so short-sighted as to...
Definitely.
I mean, yeah, you earn your money, fine, fair enough. You can spend it on, how you want. But that's just an example. Like the lack of self-awareness to think there are, people that have literally died, people that have lost their jobs, and you earned your money through a sex tape or whatever. How can you not... lip kits and all this kind of thing. How can you not have any self-awareness as to think, maybe it's not a good idea to tell the world about my birthday?
Yeah,
that's one. So self-awareness is one. And yeah, I use the example of the Kardashians. There are far more sort of,
easy.
The far worse example. Yeah, there are far worse examples. When people come to... I can't think of a specific example, and also I probably can't talk about any more specific examples for fear of worrying my bosses at work. But that's one, and there are definitely far more worse examples when it comes to politics, especially. Self-awareness is probably the big one. I can't. Do you know, I'm not gonna lie. I can't even remember the original question. I just went on a big rant then.
It was a what is your tip for making the world a better
Making
place?
the world a better
but I
place.
think that's a solid number one. That's a solid point. As much as I love talking politics and stuff, I also want to talk about your experiences, like some of the stuff you've done. As I said at the beginning, you've driven a Formula E car, you've shark cage, you swam with sharks. I remember that because my cousin's daughter loved your video. Uh, for that, she watched it a lot as a kid. I think now every time she sees me, she still asks me for that shark video.
Love that.
She loves sharks. Um,
I don't.
yeah, we know. So, like, what's been the best thing you've done from all these crazy things?
I can't pick one. You can't make me pick one. That's just me.
Okay.
I've been so lucky to do stuff that is. It's so insane to think of some of the stuff that I've done that even when I think about myself in that situation, it doesn't seem real. Even when I've just swum with sharks or scuba dived for the first time with sharks, and I'm there, watching the footage, I still can't quite believe that is me.
That's you.
Even though chatting to Kevin Hart or Denzel Washington, I'm like, there's some sort of CGI trickery going on there because that can't possibly be.
It's a hologram.
Yeah. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't think of just one thing above everything else. I can't. I can tell you a few, and I have mentioned a few. Experiencing a zero gravity flight was utterly insane. Being able to have Premier League footballers kick a cabbage at me sounds very strange, but if you saw the video, you get what the vibe was. It was very, very strange. You know, being insulted by Anthony Joshua was very strange.
I love Anthony Joshua.
He's such a nice guy, so sound.
When you meet these people, do you have like a kind of an idea of what they are in your head before, and then when you meet them, do they live up to your expectations, or you just go in there no expectations, they're just humans? What's the first thing you say to someone? I don't know, if I meet someone famous, I'll be like, oh my god.
It depends, because remember, at the end of the day, I meet all of these people through professional capacity, so I need to remain professional. But it literally depends, because it's very, 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 I cannot underestimate how important it is that the first word that you say when you enter a room and Ryan Gosling is sat there, that you need to get him on side. He's been sat there for 6 hours answering the same questions about the same film over and over and over again. You need to sort of build a rapport in 30 seconds. Literally, in the time it takes for you to walk into the room, say hello, sit down, you've basically, from the second you enter the room to the second you need to start talking, if you've got any more than 30 seconds, you're very, very lucky. But that 30 seconds is vital, as is your first question.
You're pretty charming, so I don't see it being difficult for you.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. What I will say, though, is that if you get that wrong, it can set the tone for the whole interview. Or not. With Denzel Washington, the first question he did not like at all, but I managed to bring it back.
Oops. Have you ever pissed off someone?
Not on purpose. I think I have been more annoyed by people than I've annoyed them.
So what's your worst experience?
Scott Eastwood, hands down.
What happened?
So for anyone who doesn't know, Scott Eastwood is Clint Eastwood's son, and Clint Eastwood is alongside Denzel Washington. For me, he is just peak Hollywood icons. Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington, and Clint Eastwood for me are the three. Will Smith just below. So I will probably, I'm pretty much at peace with the fact that I'll never be able to sit in a room with Clint Eastwood. As much as it breaks my heart, I just don't see it happening. I'd love to, but this I thought was going to be the closest thing. Interview with Sun about Pacific Rim, the second one.
Did you have to watch the movie before interviewing him?
Yeah, not great. He was so adamant that he wasn't the son of Clint Eastwood that he just shut down anything. Anytime that I said, look, you know, do you and your father have conversations about the films that you're gonna be in? You know, does he give you tips, all this kind of thing? Anytime I asked him a question about that, he just sort of denied that his dad was who he says who he is. But he didn't do it in you know, a funny, charming, entertaining way at all.
No.
He just sort of
Killed
he was
the
like,
vibe.
oh, big time. He was like, I don't know what you're on about. My dad's an astronaut. What? So he was just dreadful.
Do you reckon that came? Do you reckon that came maybe from a point of him trying to make a space for himself, a name for himself, rather than just the son of someone? So it might be out of frustration from his side.
Of course, I understand that, but A, he knew what I was going to do before I did it, because that sort of thing has to be run past. So A, he knew what he was going to do, or what I was going to do before I did it, and B, you know, at least A, make good films, and B, be nice about it. If you really don't want to talk about the reality that is your life that much, then just be like, look, I hope you understand that I'd rather not talk about this. I'd rather, and, you know, and then I'd be like, okay, fine, you've just taken a big poo on everything that I had planned for this 12-minute interview. But no, it was just constantly batting away questions, and it just stank of someone who has not had to work anywhere near as hard as other people. Because in the same week that I interviewed him, I interviewed Simon Pegg. There we go, I nearly forgot his name. I interviewed Simon Pegg, who has worked from nothing to become a household name, and he was nothing short of lovely. Really nice.
And on the flip side, which was your favourite, your best experience with interviewing people? So if this was the worst one.
So the fact that Kevin Hart said I was pretty damn funny is quite something. I'll take that and I'll run with it. And I had a really, really good time chatting to him and having a really genuine laugh, like belly laughs, both of us, like crying with laughter.
He's not wrong, though. I'll give it to you. He's not wrong.
No, he's a lovely guy, and I'd like to think I can at least put a smile on someone's face.
Kevin Hart's face.
Yeah, apparently. So Kevin Hart and also Denzel Washington. Because with Denzel, they were two completely different sorts of interviews. Kevin Hart, it was just a really, really good laugh. Denzel Washington, I haven't shut up about him, but it was. I could tell that he was really enjoying himself. Having the conversations that we were having, and he was telling me stories about his life, and even like his agent came up to me afterwards and said, that was wonderful, I've never heard those stories before, so what you did was really, really nice.
Wow.
And
I know this some of the bits got picked up by and then other outlets
picked up on the interview. So that's my favourite one.
Marvelous.
Really cool.
So
I remember wanting to see your debut in your new role, and we in South Africa, we don't have access to all this. We don't have your shows here, so I think I told you the story.
I mean, you are the wrong demographic. It's aged.
I know, but I wanted to see what cool stuff you were doing.
I appreciate that.
Moral support. So I FaceTimed someone in the UK, and I was like, "Listen, can you
put this on for me?
Just put your TV on." And he
love that. Dedication.
What the hell do you want to watch that show for? It's for kids. I was like, I just want to see it.
Yeah. Fair play.
And he was so confused. He was like,
you know what? We should start sponsoring some VPN or something. Based on that could help us, having all the show all over the world.
Yeah. there
But
was
anyway,
something else I
do
wanted to
you
say.
like approach? Do you approach your interviews like a conversation with a friend, or do you try to keep it, of course, professional, but like some sort of distance between you and the guests?
I guess that's up to them. I know at the end of the day, I'm aware enough that they will have been sat, depending on who it is and what it is, and the situation that I'm in. If I'm thinking about the film junkets that I did a lot of, I'm aware enough to know that they would have been sat answering the same questions over and over and over again, and they'd be bored. Whereas other times, I will approach it as conversationally as possible, as opposed to an interrogation, because then the conversation flows hopefully better. But you can't approach two different interviews the same way. It just depends on them.
It diffs. Yeah. So if this was your podcast and I was on the flip side, what would you ask me and Nabil?
Oh my days, that's a very. I would ask the first question, and this just popped into my head because I didn't get any. I haven't prepared for
I
this.
put you on the spot here.
You big time, yeah. So my first question would be, what was your motivation for starting this podcast?
So our motivation for starting this, it was just it was initially just a fun activity that we wanted to do, and also create a safe space and environment to share our stories. Often we don't get to tell our version of our own stories, and it's other people telling stories on our behalf. So that was my a big thing for me, and then to share stories like from other people from minorities in inverted commas. I don't like using that word, but people of color, sharing their stories, allowing them a platform to share their stories. So yeah, I don't know what's Nabil's intentions. Just to have a laugh.
Well, I'll ask Nabil a different question. Where do you want to take this?
So the thing about taking it where I want to take it comes from the previous question. So I personally started it because I have this thing in my mind that when I see a problem, I try to do my best to offer a solution. So, for instance, I said I had a magazine where the magazine came all from the fact that I don't like the state of some media here in Italy at the moment. And I don't like information how it's brought, so I try to offer a solution with a magazine with proper information, proper news, and things like that. As for the podcast, I wanted something that I would listen to, something that could be interesting, funny, and that could bring on and shed some light on some issues. For instance, the whole pressure on young people in the 20s as for what we're talking about. So where I will take it, literally, to what did Buzz Lightyear used to say?
To infinity and beyond.
Right.
Nice.
It sounds cliche. Since it's something that up until, as far as it's something that I would listen to, I'm completely good to go on with it, because of course it's something.
Granted,
it means that
I
it's something
don't bail
that is
on
missing
you.
in the world, and if something is missing, yeah, let's say I trust you, somewhat trust you.
No, it's a complete stranger
But yeah,
on the internet. You just met. You completely trust me to pursue your passion project.
Yeah.
Nice. No pressure on
Yeah.
me. No pressure on me at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's a nice question because so many people ask it, and it's like not this specific question, but they usually ask you, how do you see yourself in 10 years, for instance? And at the moment, I'm in my 20s, and I feel that life is so dynamic. I mean, literally a year. Just take 2020 with the whole pandemic and everything. it can literally revolutionize your career. So yes, if you ask me, I can tell you where I could see myself in 10 years, but it won't be realistic enough, not at all. So yeah, Nabila, where would you like to take this podcast? Granted that you don't bail on me.
Um, you're the second person today to put me on the spot like this. Um, like I said, I need to get my ducks in a row, but wherever you want to take it, I will take it.
Good, it's infinity and beyond then.
Love that.
Yeah, but
Do you know, I keep canceling calls that my mother's trying to set me up with this guy through this matchmaking thing anyways. So I keep blowing him off for this podcast. So I'm serious about it.
wow, and now yeah, pressure on me.
Yeah. No pressure.
Well, then it's something I love to do. I mean, it sounds like it's just an episode, but I get the chance to have some very insightful conversation like this one. I mean, like literally, I would have loved to have this conversation even without a podcast because it's so insightful, and I love having a conversation with people who can
He
actually
loves talking.
even debate their idea and yeah, I love talking. No, I love talking to insightful people and just trying to bring that to other people, to whoever may be interested. So whatever we say here might be interesting for other people. That's the whole point of the podcast. Trying to find something which it is interesting to many other people and try to bring it to everyone and try to hear from everyone. That's why everyone is always we're always happy to read messages from everyone.
Yeah,
And
it's be very diverse. I mean, so far we've had someone from South Africa, Germany, and now the UK. You from Italy, I'm South African. Not bad.
Good start.
yeah.
It's a good start.
International.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to my favorite part of the show. Dun dun dun. Song of the week.
Ooh.
Song of the week.
Song of the week.
Yeah.
Or movie. It can be a movie, it can be a song, it can be a series, it can be a book.
What's my favourite song of the week?
Let's go with Nabil always has his ready. On the spot, ready.
Absolutely. I have been listening to two songs mainly on loop. First one is Forever and Always by Kayla Menta. She's super talented, really.
That's a South African artist. She's from South Africa. Oh, yes.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that song. And the second song of the week is Electric, because I still have it on my mind.
Also
by
South African song.
Yes. So apparently I'm very fond of South African
I'm going to have to pull
singers.
some strings here.
Please do.
I'm going to have to pull some strings to get my South African connections, and maybe we can get them on our podcast.
What about you?
Sorry, if you were speaking to me, that is.
Yes.
So I discovered recently that Floetry, if you've heard of them, they wrote a Michael Jackson song, and that Michael Jackson song is one of my favourites. But they wrote it and they did a demo for it, so I've been listening to that. So I had no idea that was a thing.
Oh wow!
So it's Floetry Butterflies, but it was just a demo for Michael Jackson, who did a song called Butterflies on the Invincible album, and I love that album and I love that song.
Oh, so you both have something in common, Michael Jackson.
Greatest of all time. Greatest of all time.
I absolutely agree on that.
My song of the week has so I've had this on repeat. It's the new one by Ali Ghati and Masaji. It's called I See the Dream, Badna Salam. It's quite a good one. It's about just everything that's going on and in solidarity with people struggling all over the world. I like it. It's a goodie.
Lovely. Absolutely. Um, yeah. So thank you very much, Richie. Really.
My pleasure. My
Um,
Thank you
pleasure.
so
it's
much.
been a true pleasure. It's been really insightful, and you're the representation of what we want from this podcast. Having so
Ah,
He was so
a
excited
truly
to have you. He was so he,
yeah, and absolutely. And I literally didn't think. I mean, I knew we were going to have a very nice conversation, but this exceeded any expectation I had. So really, really love all this conversation. I really hope that you all are going to enjoy it at least as much as I did.
and we
Um,
can continue following your journey on social media at
yeah,
Richie Driss.
yes, you can at Richie Driss. There is no T in Richie. I don't know why people do that. So Richie Driss Driss, all one word, on Twitter and Instagram.
Lots of
And
pain video reactions. Every time I see
yeah,
those on my timeline, I know don't put on the football. No football
exactly.
today.
Exactly that. Exactly. And thank you so much for having me on. It was a really fascinating conversation. So yeah, I appreciate it. And also,
it's been our longest episode so far.
oh,
Yeah.
good.
We're gonna
But
have to
also,
get you back sometime.
for sure. But also, yeah, keep reaching for the stars, to infinity and beyond, and all that kind of thing. And don't blunt yourself because of what you think anyone else may think of you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely.
I do agree. Thank you very much, you all, and we will catch with you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.